Parmenides is of Elea, a kind of Greek colony in southern Italy near what is now today Naples. And he is famous for this idea that all is really one. There are no true differences or anything that is contingent in the sense that it can cease to exist. That only what is real is that which is, and that which is cannot not be. There cannot be anything which is non-existent. Or, in other words, there cannot be an essence to nothingness. Parmenides really is the first to engage in meta-theoretical inquiry. Kind of, what is the nature of philosophical inquiry itself? Or what kind of thing, how do we understand things? How can it be understood, right? In a sense, like, what are the methods that we use? What might be limited by certain methods that we use? And the question he poses is, what sort of thing can be understood? And so I want to read here from this poem. So Parmenides, and I should say fragments of this poem are taken from various authors after Parmenides' death. There are no surviving works directly written by him. So Parmenides says, "The mares which carry me as far as my spirit ever aspired were escorting me when they brought me and proceeded along the renowned route of the goddess, which brings a knowing mortal to all cities one by one. On this route I was being brought. On it wise mares were bringing me, straining the chariot, and maidens were guiding the way. The axle in the center of the wheel was shrilling forth the bright sound of a musical pipe, ablaze, for it was being driven forward by two rounded wheels at either end, as the daughters of the sun were hastening to escort me after leaving the house of night. For the light, having pushed back the veils from their heads with their hands. There are the gates of the roads of night and day, and a lintel and a stone threshold contain them. High in the sky they are filled by huge doors, of which avenging justice holds the keys that fit them. The maidens beguiled her with soft words, and skillfully persuaded her to push back the bar for them quickly from the gates. They made a gaping gap of the doors when they opened them, swinging in turn in their sockets the bronze posts fastened with bolts and rivets. There, straight through them then, the maidens held the chariot and horses on the broad road. And the goddess received me kindly, took my right hand in hers, and addressed me with these words. Young man, accompanied by immortal charioteers, who reach my house by the horses which bring you, welcome, since it was not an evil destiny that sent you forth to travel this route, for indeed it is far from the beaten path of humans, but right and justice. It is right that you learn all things, both the unshaken heart of well-persuasive truth, or in another translation, well-rounded truth, and the beliefs of mortals, in which there is no true trust. But nevertheless, you will learn these too, how it were right that the things that seem be reliably, being indeed the whole of things. But come now, I will tell you, and you, when you have heard the story, bring it safely away, which are the only roots of inquiry that are for thinking." So what are the roots of inquiry that are for thinking? The one, that is, and that it is not possible for it not to be, is the path of persuasion, for it attends upon truth. The other, that it is not, and that it is right, and that it not be, this indeed I declare to you to be a path entirely unable to be investigated. For neither can you know what is not, for it is not to be accomplished, nor can you declare it. For the same thing is for thinking and for being. But gaze upon things which, although absent, are securely present to the mind. For you will not cut off what is from clinging to what is, neither being scattered everywhere in every way in order, nor being brought together. For me it is indifferent from where I am to begin, for that is where I will arrive back again. It is right both to say and to think that it is what is, for it can be, but nothing is not. These things I bid you to ponder. For you from this first route of inquiry, and then from that on which mortals, knowing nothing, wander, two-headed. For helplessness in their breasts steers their wandering mind. They are borne along deaf and blind alike, dazed, hordes without judgment for whom to be and not to be, are thought to be the same and not the same, and the path of all is backward turning. Just to note, an alternative translation for the line "for the same thing is for thinking and for being" is "for the same thing both can be thought of and can be," or "for thinking and being are the same." So we get this idea that all is one, that whatever you can think that is true, it also exists. And only that which really exists is that which you can think or reason. That you cannot think that which is not, that which does not exist. Now, why should Parmenides or you or I believe what this divine goddess says? Well, Parmenides gives us a way that we can test what she says, right? It's not just by mere persuasion alone, but through the use of reason. He says, "For in no way may this prevail, that things that are not are. But you, hold your thought back from this route of inquiry, and do not let habit, rich in experience, compel you along this route to direct an aimless eye and an echoing ear and tongue, but judge by reasoning," right, logos, "the much contested examination spoken by me." So you should use reason to determine, does that make sense? Does the supposition that something is, that something exists, that it has being, it has an essence, should that entail, upon further examination, that which is not? Could it be that which does not exist? If it's the case that it could not be that, then it does not exist. But if it is the case, if it is the case that it cannot be that, then it's true. What she's saying is true. If it is the case that it could be its opposite, that it is possible that it could not exist, whatever that thing is, then it's not true. The point, though, is that that which is knowable cannot not be. It couldn't be otherwise. You could not think it. Or at least not think it at all times, maybe we could say. Okay, if that which is cannot not be, what are the kinds of things that can be thought? What can be thought which actually is? Well, the idea we get from Parmenides is that anything that truly is, that truly exists, that has a kind of nature that is not dependent on other things, anything that truly is cannot be subject to coming to be or passing away, right? It can't be subject to degeneration or generation. He says, just one story of a root is still left, that it is. On this root there are signs, very many, that what is ungenerated and imperishable, a whole of a single kind, unshaken and complete. Nor was it ever, nor will it be, since it is now altogether one, holding together. So ultimate causes or principles must be of a single nature. They must be unchanging and they must be universal. And this is why this divine goddess says, it doesn't matter where I begin because I will always end up in the same place. Because that which is one. There is no kind of difference that's truly made by beginning from one part of the story to another if what is being said is true. Because to understand what is being said, it must exist. If it exists, it cannot be otherwise, because anything that could be otherwise is contingent to, let's say, time. It could be true now, might be false tomorrow. Well, how could you say it's true if it could be false tomorrow? How could you say it's true if it could be divisible? If it's divisible, it's not subject to its own circumstances. It's subject to other forces. Are those forces subject to coming into being or passing away? If so, then again, it can't be timeless. Only that which is unchanging and universal exists. Everything then everything that is actually one. Differences are an illusion. On the other hand then, anything that's contingent is mere opinion, or in the Greek doxa. Any kind of testimony or evidence or inquiry, even into historical subjects. These are just mere opinion. Only that which can be completely grasped and understood in its entirety by thought can be known. So the only thing that can be known are universal things, perhaps like 2 plus 2 equals 4, which seems to be not contingent on any, context or time and place. It seems to be universally true. Perhaps other things are, like maybe what the nature of justice is, although that is not quite clear from what we get from Parmenides. But the nature of existence itself, from Parmenides, we get this idea that existence itself, its nature, its essence, as one, is timeless, it's unchanging. Therefore, it is true. But, that this glass holds water isn't necessarily true. It's just mere opinion. Because it's subject to contingent circumstances, perhaps, it seems like. I think 2 questions we can ask with respect to Parmenides' philosophy here is, 1, whether cosmological inquiry is impossible. How can you actually have an account of the world? How could you, have an account of the generation of all being if you're saying, well, it doesn't generate. It just always is and always has been. Likewise, then, can science ever actually tell us anything true about the world, or is it mere opinion? And this is what's not quite clear as well with Parmenides. If the nature of being, of what it means for something to exist and therefore to know it, means that it couldn't be otherwise, and so that which is cannot not be, and so there is no thing which is not, how could you ever have an account of like a false statement? Right? How could you say like it's true that someone gave a false statement, or it's true that that statement is false? It doesn't seem like you can have an account actually of falsehood itself. Perhaps it could only be just the absence of truth. But if truth is unchanging, how could there be the absence of truth? Right? It just seems like, well, in that case, it's just deception one has fallen for. So just certain questions that I think need to be thought about with respect to fully understanding Parmenides' philosophy here.